Dr. Alina Martinez floated in front of the large screen, inside the research ship Aurora's Dream. The stars looked peaceful from here, millions of tiny lights against the black space. She had been studying old alien ruins for 3 years now, and most days were quiet. Today felt different. "Alina, you need to see this," called out Dr. Jake Miller from his station. His voice sounded worried. Jake never worried about anything. Alina pushed herself across the zero-gravity room to look at his screen. "What is it?" she asked. "I'm picking up a signal. It's not like anything we've seen before. It's coming from the planet below us." Jake pointed at the blue and green worlds spinning slowly beneath their ship. Alina looked at the readings. The signal was strong and clear. Too clear. "This is impossible. Our scans showed no advanced life down there." "Well, someone is definitely trying to talk to us," Jake said. He pressed a few buttons. "I'm going to try to translate it." The computer worked for several minutes. Strange sounds filled the room, clicks, whistles, and deep humming noises. Then the computer beeped, and a new voice spoke in perfect English. "This is Ambassador Kael'vas of the Zephyrian people. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We are dying." Alina felt her heart skip. First contact. Real first contact. She grabbed the microphone. "This is Dr. Alina Martinez aboard the human research vessel, Aurora's Dream. We can hear you. What kind of help do you need?" There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, filled with desperation. "Humans, we have heard of your people. You are new to the stars, yes? Please, we do not have much time. The Vakari Empire has surrounded our world. They demand our surrender. If we do not give up in 2 days, they will destroy every city on our planet." Jake looked at Alina with wide eyes. She felt sick to her stomach. "How many of you are there?" 8 billion Zephyrians live on this world. We are peaceful people. We have never built weapons of war. The Vakari know this. They choose easy targets. They have already taken 12 worlds in our sector." Alina's hands shook as she held the microphone. "Why haven't other species helped you?" "Some lack the power to fight the Vakari. Others are too afraid. The Vakari Empire is strong. Their ships are many. Their weapons are terrible. Most species run when they hear the Vakari are coming." Dr. Miller was already working at his station. "Alina, I'm picking up massive energy. Signatures in orbit around their planet. Hundreds of ships. This Vakari fleet is huge." The voice of Kael'vas continued. "We have sent this message to every species we know. So far, only you have answered. We do not ask for much. We offer our technology, our friendship, our knowledge. We only ask that someone help us live." Alina thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who had only recently learned they were not alone in the universe. Humanity had spent so many years fighting each other. Only in the last century had they truly learned to work together. The wars had been terrible, but they had taught humans something important: how to fight when survival was at stake. "Kael'vas, I need to send your message to Earth. Our leaders will decide what to do. How long do you have?" "Less than 48 of your hours." The Vakari commander grows impatient. He says, if we do not surrender by then, he will begin destroying our cities, one by one. Alina closed her eyes. 48 hours to save 8 billion lives. I'm sending everything to Earth right now. Hold on. She worked fast, sending all the data they had collected. The signal readings, the translations, the energy signatures from the Vakari fleet. Everything went into a high-priority message to Earth Defense Command. Hours passed. Alina and Jake watched the Zephyrian planet below them. They could see the lights of cities, the blue oceans, the white clouds. It looked so much like Earth. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people waited to learn if they would live or die. Finally, a message came back from Earth. It was brief. Dr. Martinez, continue monitoring the situation. Help is coming. Admiral Jack Morrison, Earth Defense Command. Alina felt a strange mix of hope and fear. She had heard of Admiral Morrison. Everyone had. He was the man who had unified the Earth's military forces. He had fought in the resource wars, the colony rebellions, and the corporate conflicts. If anyone knew about war, it was Jack Morrison. But what could Earth do? Humanity had only been in space for 50 years. They had maybe 100 ships that could fight. The Valkyrie had hundreds, just around this one planet. Alina, Jake said, quietly. Look at this. On his screen, new signals appeared. Ships were coming. Lots of ships. But these signals looked different from the Valkyrie ones. These moved faster, used different energy patterns. Are those human ships? Alina asked. I think so, but I've never seen readings like this before. These ships are running dark, using some kind of stealth technology. How did they get here so fast? Alina smiled for the first time in hours. Maybe humanity was newer to the stars than other species. Maybe they had fewer ships and less experience. But there was one thing humans understood better than anyone else in the galaxy. They knew how to fight. She opened the channel to Kael'vas again. Ambassador, this is Alina. I have good news. Human ships are coming. They'll be there soon. How many ships? Kael'vas asked. Hope filled his voice. Alina looked at Jake's readings. I'm not sure, but I know this. When humans decide to fight for something, they don't give up, ever. She didn't tell him what she was really thinking. The signals on Jake's screen looked wrong somehow. Too fast, too quiet, too organized. These weren't normal military ships. These were something else, something that moved through space like predators hunting prey. For the first time since receiving the distress call, Alina wondered if they had made the right choice calling for help. Earth had sent ships, yes, but what kind of ships? And what kind of people crewed them? Below them, the Zephyrian world continued to spin peacefully, unaware that monsters were coming to save them. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the war room deep inside Earth Defense Command. The walls showed maps of space, ship locations, and enemy positions. Around the table sat the best military minds humanity had ever produced. They all looked at the data from the Zephyrian system. How many Valkyrie ships are we looking at? Morrison asked. Colonel Kate Brown, his intelligence chief, pulled up the numbers. 437 confirmed vessels, mostly heavy cruisers and destroyers, at least 12 dreadnoughts. This is a full conquest fleet. Admiral Lisa Kane, commander of the 7th Fleet, leaned back in her chair. Jack, we've got maybe 40 ships that can make the trip. The odds are 10 to 1 against us. Morrison smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Lisa, when has humanity ever cared about odds? Captain Ryan Blake spoke up from his seat. Admiral, my ship analysis shows the Valkyrie use standard formation tactics. They rely on overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. It's worked for them for centuries. And what do we know about species who have fought them before? Morrison asked. Most surrender without fighting, said Commander Amy Torres. The few who fight use the same tactics, line up their ships, and shoot until one side dies. The Valkyrie always win because they have more ships and bigger guns. Morrison walked to the big screen showing the Zephyrian system. The Valkyrie have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. What exactly are we capable of, sir? Asked Captain Blake. Morrison turned back to his officers. We're capable of things that would give other species nightmares. We've spent 100 years learning how to kill each other efficiently. The resource wars taught us deception. The colony rebellions taught us hit-and-run tactics. The corporate conflicts taught us psychological warfare. Admiral Kane nodded slowly. You want to use the Omega Protocols. The room went quiet. The Omega Protocols were humanity's darkest military secrets. Tactics so brutal, so unforgiving, that they were only used when survival was at stake. Every single one, Morrison said. The Valkyrie think they're hunting peaceful prey. Instead, they're about to learn why humans are the apex predators of Earth. He pressed a button, and new images appeared on the screen. Ships unlike anything in the standard fleet. Sleek black vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The UES Retribution will be your flagship, Lisa. Stealth capabilities, adaptive weapons, quantum disruptors. Her sister ships Fury, Vengeance, and Wrath are already moving to join you. Captain Blake stared at the ships. I've never seen these designs before, because they don't officially exist, Morrison said. We've been building them in secret for 20 years. Every innovation from our wars, every dirty trick we learned, every psychological weapon we developed, it's all built into these ships. Commander Torres looked worried. Admiral, are we sure we want to reveal these capabilities? Once we use them, other species will know what humans can do. Morrison's expression grew cold. Amy, 8 billion innocent people are about to die. If saving them means the galaxy learns to fear humanity, so be it. Better they fear us than test us. Admiral Kane was already studying ship assignments. How do you want to deploy the fleet? Conventional approach at first, Morrison said. Let the Vakari think they understand what they're facing. Captain Blake, you'll command the apparent suicide squadron. Make them think we're desperate enough to throw ships away. Blake grinned. How apparent should this suicide be, sir? Make it look real. Let them capture one of your ships if you have to. Master Chief Sam Carter will handle the boarding party that takes it back from the inside. Master Chief Carter, a mountain of a man with scars from a dozen battles, just nodded. How many prisoners should we leave alive for questioning, sir? None, Morrison said simply. We want the Varakari to think humans are too dangerous to capture. Let them wonder what we did to our own people to make them fight that hard. The planning continued for hours. Each ship received specific orders. Each captain understood their role in what Morrison called the Symphony of War. It wasn't enough to defeat the Varakari. They had to be broken so completely that word would spread across the galaxy. The Zephyrian sent a message asking for help, Morrison told his officers as the meeting ended. They're about to learn that when humans come to help, we don't just solve the immediate problem, we solve it permanently. 3 hours later, the human fleet moved out from Earth. To any watching eyes, it looked like a standard military deployment. 40 ships, in formation, heading toward the Zephyrian system at best possible speed. But hidden within the fleet were secrets that would change everything. Ships that could disappear from sensors. Weapons that could turn enemy technology against itself. And most dangerous of all, humans who had been trained to think like weapons themselves. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Retribution as Earth fell behind them. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Pete Johnson, was reviewing Varakari communications. They had intercepted. Admiral, the Varakari commander is named General Thrackmore. He's conquered 15 worlds in the last 5 years. His record shows he prefers to break enemy morale before attacking. Interesting, Kane said. What methods does he use? Psychological warfare, mostly. He broadcasts images of destroyed cities to convince enemies to surrender. He's never actually had to fight a real battle? Kane smiled. Pete, send a message to all ship commanders. Inform them that we're about to give General Thrackmore a real education in psychological warfare. As the human fleet traveled through space, each ship ran silent. No communications, no sensor sweeps, nothing that would give away their true capabilities. To anyone watching, they looked like a desperate rescue force rushing to help an ally. The Vakari intercepted human transmissions and laughed. 40 ships against 400. These humans must be insane or stupid. Either way, it would be an easy victory. But deep in the human ships, soldiers prepared for a very different kind of battle. They checked weapons that could adapt to any enemy defense. They reviewed tactics that had no names because they were too terrible to discuss openly. They prepared to show the galaxy what happened when peaceful species called on Earth's monsters for protection. In the medical bay of the Retribution, Dr. Sarah Walsh finished preparing the psychological warfare broadcasts. Images designed to break enemy morale, sounds that would trigger panic responses, messages that would make the Vakari question everything they thought they knew about warfare. "Doctor," asked a young technician, "these programs seem ... extreme." "Doctor," Walsh looked at him with tired eyes. "Son, we're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to save a civilization and send a message to every warlike species in the galaxy. Sometimes, to protect innocence, you have to become the monster others fear to face." The human fleet continued its journey toward the Zephyrian system, carrying with it the concentrated knowledge of a species that had learned warfare through necessity and perfected it through desperation. Soon, the Vakari would learn why Earth's children were called the monsters of war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyrian system. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the sensor readings pour in. 437 Vakari ships surrounded the peaceful blue world below. "Tactical assessment," Kane ordered. Lieutenant Pete Johnson worked at his console. "The Vakari have arranged their ships in a standard siege formation. Heavy ships close to the planet, destroyers in outer patrol routes, fighters running constant sweeps. Very organized, very predictable." Captain Ryan Blake's voice came over the communication system from his destroyer squadron. "Admiral, they're hailing us. Should I respond?" "Put it through," Kane said. The main screen flickered, and a large reptilian face appeared. General Thrackmore had dark green scales, yellow eyes, and teeth like knives. He looked amused. "So, the humans have finally arrived," Thrackmore said in perfect English. "I was beginning to think your species was smarter than this. 40 ships against my fleet. You must be here to surrender on behalf of the Zephyrians." Kane stepped forward. "General Thrackmore, I am Admiral Lisa Kane of the United Earth Defense Force. You will withdraw your forces from this system immediately." Thrackmore laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Admiral Kane, I have conquered 12 worlds in this sector. I have destroyed fleets 3 times the size of yours. What makes you think 40 human ships can accomplish what entire civilizations could not?" "Because we're not like other civilizations," Kane said quietly. "No, you are not," Thrackmore agreed. "Other civilizations are smart enough to know when they are beaten." "Very well, Admiral. You want to throw away human lives for these peaceful weaklings. I will grant your wish. Attack at your leisure. My fleet will be waiting." The screen went black. Kane turned to her crew. "All ships, move to attack formation Alpha 7. Make it look conventional." The human fleet spread out in what appeared to be a standard military formation. 3 groups of ships, approaching from different angles. The Vakari commanders watched and nodded approvingly. The humans were using textbook tactics. This would be easy, but on the human ships, the real preparations began. Captain Blake spoke to his squadron commanders on a secured channel. "Remember, we need to sell this performance. Make your attacks look desperate, but brave. Let them think we're throwing ships away because we don't know any better." Master Chief Sam Carter was already suited up in his boarding armor. His team of 12 Marines waited in the assault pod, ready to launch. "Captain, the Varakari cruiser, Bone Crusher, looks like our best target. They'll want to capture a human ship intact for study." "Agreed," Blake said. "Take us in hard and fast. Make it look like we're trying to ram them." The first phase of the battle began exactly as the Varakari expected. Human ships charged forward, firing conventional weapons. The Varakari responded with overwhelming firepower, their superior numbers telling immediately. Blake's destroyer squadron took heavy damage as they rushed toward the enemy lines. His ship, the Defiant, lost half its weapons and began venting atmosphere. "Perfect. This is Captain Blake to all ships. He broadcast on an open channel the Vakari could hear. "We're taking too much damage. I'm going to ram the nearest enemy ship. Tell my family I died fighting." The Defiant accelerated toward the Vakari cruiser Bone Crusher, but at the last moment, the ship's engines appeared to fail. Instead of ramming, the Defiant drifted helplessly against the enemy hull. "Boarding pods incoming," Blake announced to his crew on internal communications. "Make this look good." Vakari soldiers stormed aboard the Defiant, expecting to find desperate humans making a last stand. Instead, they found a ship full of dead bodies and disabled systems. The humans had apparently chosen death over capture. Thrackmore watched the boarding action from his flagship. "Bring the human ship into our hangar bay. I want to study their technology and find out why they chose suicide over surrender." This was exactly what the humans wanted, as the Vakari towed the Defiant into their ship. Master Chief Carter and his team quietly came back to life. The dead bodies were wearing advanced armor that could simulate death so perfectly it fooled Sensors. Carter spoke quietly into his communicator. "Phase 1 complete. We're inside the enemy flagship." While this drama played out, the rest of the human fleet continued their apparently desperate attack. Ships took damage, retreated, regrouped, and attacked again. To the Vakari, it looked like humans fighting with courage but no real strategy. Admiral Kane watched the battle unfold from the Retribution's bridge. So far, everything was going according to plan. The Vakari thought they understood what they were facing. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Johnson, "the Vakari are moving ships to surround our retreat routes. They want to capture more human vessels." "Excellent," Kane said. "Signal Phase 2. Let's show them something they haven't seen before." Across the human fleet, ships that had appeared damaged suddenly revealed they were still fully operational. Weapons that seemed destroyed came back online. And most shocking of all, ships that the Vakari thought they had destroyed completely reappeared on sensors. "Impossible," Thrackmore muttered, staring at his tactical display. Those ships were confirmed destroyed. His tactical officer, a nervous-looking reptilian named Vectel, checked the readings again. "General, it appears the humans were using some kind of deception technology. Those ships were never actually damaged." The human fleet suddenly moved in perfect coordination. Instead of the chaotic attacks they had been making, they now demonstrated precision that caught the Vakari completely off guard. Captain Blake's voice came over Vakari communications. He was supposedly dead aboard a captured ship. "General Thrackmore, thank you for bringing my ship aboard your flagship. It made our job much easier." Explosions began ripping through the Bone Crusher. Master Chief Carter and his team had spent the last hour placing charges throughout the ship's critical systems. But they weren't trying to destroy it. They were taking control of it. "You see," Blake continued, "humans learned a long time ago that the best way to capture an enemy ship is to let them capture you first." The Bone Crusher's weapons suddenly turned on nearby Vakari ships. Its communication system began broadcasting human signals instead of Vakari ones. In less than 10 minutes, the humans had taken control of one of the most powerful ships in the enemy fleet. Thrackmore realized he was no longer fighting a desperate rescue attempt. He was facing something far more dangerous, humans who had planned for this exact situation. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "target the captured cruiser immediately. Destroy it." Before his words were cut off, as every human ship in the system suddenly disappeared from sensors. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, then, just as suddenly, they reappeared, but not where they had been. They were now scattered throughout the Vakari formation, their stealth systems having allowed them to move undetected right into the middle of the enemy fleet. Admiral Kane's voice echoed across all Vakari communication channels. "General Thrackmore, you made a mistake. You assumed humans fight like other species. We don't. We fight like humans." The real battle was about to begin. General Thrackmore stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human ships had vanished and reappeared like ghosts. Now they sat in the middle of his formation, close enough to touch his vessels, but somehow invisible to his sensors, until they chose to reveal themselves. How is this possible? He demanded of his tactical officer. Unknown, General Vectel replied, his voice shaking. Our sensors show nothing unusual about their ships, but they clearly possess technology we don't understand. The truth was simpler and more terrifying than the Vakari realized. Human ships hadn't used advanced technology to hide, they had used advanced psychology. They had studied Vakari's sensor patterns for months, learning exactly how their enemies expected ships to behave. Then they had moved in ways that the Vakari minds simply couldn't process. Admiral Kane opened communications to the entire Vakari fleet. General Thrackmore, you've spent your career fighting species who think like you do? Linear tactics, predictable responses, conventional warfare. You've never faced a species that learned to fight by fighting itself. On the bridge of the Retribution, Lieutenant Pete Johnson was coordinating the next phase of their attack. But this wasn't about destroying ships, it was about breaking minds. Admiral, psychological warfare package is ready, Johnson reported. Begin transmission, Kane ordered. Across the Vakari fleet, communication systems suddenly filled with sounds and images that made no sense. Chaotic noise mixed with perfect silence. Pictures of Earth's wars, humans fighting humans with a savagery that made the Vakari sick. And underneath it all, a message that repeated in every Vakari dialect. This is what humans do to each other when we disagree. Imagine what we do to enemies. The effect was immediate. Vakari communications became confused, panicked. These creatures had spent centuries conquering peaceful species. They had never seen anything like human warfare. The willingness to use any tactic, accept any loss, exploit any weakness. Commander Amy Torres was leading the ground assault team, even though there was no ground to assault yet. Her job was different. She was hacking into Vakari computer systems from her ship, the Nightmare. Their computer security is impressive, she reported to Admiral Kane, but it's designed to stop conventional attacks. They never imagined someone would try to make their own ships think they were being attacked by their allies. Torres was using a tactic humans had perfected during the corporate wars, turning enemy technology against itself. She wasn't trying to control Vakari ships directly. Instead, she was making their computers misinterpret sensor data, report false threats, and see human ships where none existed. The Vakari fleet began firing on empty space, chasing sensor ghosts that Torres created in their systems. Ships broke formation to pursue targets that weren't there, leaving gaps in their defenses that the humans exploited ruthlessly. But the humans weren't done revealing their capabilities. Captain Blake, now in full control of the captured Vakari cruiser Bone Crusher, began the most disturbing phase of the human plan. He opened communications to General Thrackmore's flagship. General, I want to show you something, Blake said. On the screen, he appeared to be standing in the Bone Crusher's bridge, surrounded by Vakari Bodhis. These are your soldiers. They fought bravely. But they made one mistake. They assumed humans fight fair. Blake gestured to Master Chief Carter, who was dragging a wounded Vakari officer across the bridge. This is Commander Sekloth, your tactical specialist. He's been very helpful in explaining your fleet's weaknesses. The wounded Vakari looked at the screen with terror in his eyes. General, don't listen to them. They don't fight like any species should. They use fear itself as a weapon. What did you do to him? Thrackmore demanded. Blake smiled coldly. We told him the truth about human history, about our wars, our tactics, our willingness to do whatever it takes to win. We didn't torture him, General. We just let him understand what kind of species he was fighting. This was the most terrifying human weapon of all. Psychological warfare so sophisticated, it could break enemy morale without causing physical harm. The humans had learned that the mind was the most important battlefield. Across the Vakari fleet, communications filled with reports of impossible things. Ships appearing and disappearing, weapons that seemed to think for themselves, human voices, speaking perfect Vakari, and claiming to know personal details about individual soldiers. The humans had done their homework. For months, they had been intercepting Vakari communications, learning about individual officers, their families, their fears. Now they used this knowledge like a scalpel, targeting each enemy commander with personalized psychological attacks. Captain Lekvas, came a human voice over the Vakari. Destroyer Talon's communications. We know about your daughter on Vraktos Prime. We know she just started military academy. How do you think she would feel if she knew her father died, attacking innocent people? Captain Lekvas stared at his communication console in shock. How could humans possibly know about his family? How could they know personal details about his life? The answer was simple. Humans were very good at gathering intelligence, and very good at using it to break their enemies' will to fight. Admiral Kane watched the Vakari formation fall apart as individual ships began questioning their orders, their mission, their entire understanding of warfare. Phase 3, she ordered. Show them what human weapons can really do. Until now, the human ships had been using conventional weapons, letting the Vakari think they understood human technology. Now they revealed the innovations that centuries of human warfare had produced. The destroyer, Fury, fired what appeared to be a normal missile at a Vakari cruiser. But this missile didn't explode on impact. It burrowed into the enemy's ship and began converting their own weapons into human-controlled systems. The battleship, Wrath, demonstrated adaptive armor that could change its properties in real time, making Vakari weapons ineffective while allowing human weapons to pass through unimpeded. Most disturbing of all, the assault ship Vengeance revealed boarding pods that could phase through enemy shields and armor, depositing human soldiers directly inside enemy vessels. But the humans weren't trying to destroy the Vakari fleet, they were trying to convert it. Every ship they captured, every soldier they defeated, every system they infiltrated became part of their growing force. General Thrackmore watched his proud fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to anticipate his every move. The humans weren't just winning, they were teaching him that everything he thought he knew about warfare was wrong. General, his communication officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 43 of our ships. They say the humans have convinced them that resistance is futile. Thrackmore couldn't believe what he was hearing. His own ships were surrendering not because they were damaged, but because the humans had broken their will to fight. Admiral Kane's voice came over his personal communication channel. General Thrackmore, you have two choices. Order your fleet to withdraw from this system immediately, or learn why humans are called the monsters of war. I should mention withdrawal is still an option. For now, for the first time in his military career, Thrackmore faced an enemy that terrified him more than death itself. The humans hadn't just defeated his tactics, they had made him question whether warfare as he understood it was even possible against such an opponent. The choice was simple: retreat or face complete annihilation. But as Thrackmore stared at the tactical display showing his once mighty fleet in chaos, he realized the humans had already won something more valuable than a battle. They had won his respect, his fear, and most importantly, his understanding that humanity was unlike any species the galaxy had ever seen. General Thrackmore stood alone on his bridge, staring at the tactical display. Half his fleet had surrendered. Another quarter was drifting helplessly, their systems turned against them by human cyber warfare. The remaining ships huddled around his flagship like frightened children. In less than 6 hours, 40 human ships had destroyed the reputation of the Vakari Empire. General, his communication officer said quietly, Admiral Kane is requesting a private channel. Put her through, Thrackmore said. He was too tired to fight anymore. Admiral Kane's face appeared on his screen. She looked calm, professional, almost kind. This somehow made her more terrifying than if she had been angry. "General, you have something that doesn't belong to you," she said simply. "The Zephyrian system," he replied. "Yes, and 8 billion innocent lives that you were planning to take." Thrackmore looked at his tactical display again. The human fleet had repositioned itself between his ships and the planet below. But that wasn't what defeated him. What defeated him was the understanding that these humans could have destroyed his entire fleet hours ago if they had wanted to. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want you to leave this system and never come back," Kane said. "I want you to send a message to your empire explaining that the Zephyrian system is under human protection. And I want you to understand something very important." What Kane's expression grew serious. "The Zephyrians asked for help. They didn't ask us to conquer you or destroy your people. They asked us to protect them. That's the only reason your ships still exist." The truth hit Thrackmore like a physical blow. The humans could have killed everyone in his fleet. Instead, they had chosen to demonstrate their power without unnecessary death. They were monsters, yes, but monsters with a moral code. "What happens if the Empire sends another fleet?" he asked. "Then we'll teach them the same lesson we taught you," Kane said. "But General, I hope you'll convince them that's unnecessary. Humanity doesn't want to fight the Vakari Empire. We just want to protect peaceful species who ask for our help." Master Chief Carter's voice came over the communication system from the captured Bone Crusher. "Admiral, we've finished downloading their tactical databases. We now have complete information on Vakari military capabilities and strategic planning." Kane nodded. "Thank you, Chief. Transfer all non-military personnel back to their ships. Medical supplies and repair materials, as well. We're not interested in holding prisoners." Thrackmore was confused. "You're releasing everyone." "General, we're not conquerors," Kane explained. "We're protectors. There's a difference." Across the system, human ships began transferring captured Vakari soldiers back to their vessels. But they weren't the same soldiers who had been captured. These Vakari had seen human warfare from the inside. They had watched humans fight with perfect coordination, adapt to any situation, and show mercy when victory was complete. They would never forget what they had learned about humanity. Dr. Sarah Walsh, the human psychological warfare specialist, opened a channel to the entire Vakari fleet. "Soldiers of the Vakari Empire, you came here to conquer a peaceful world. Instead, you discovered that peaceful worlds have protectors. Remember this day. Remember that when innocent species call for help, the monsters of Earth answer." "Ambassador." Kelvos's voice suddenly filled the communication channels. He was broadcasting from the Zephyrian planet below. "Human ships, this is Kelvos. We don't know how to thank you." Admiral Kane smiled for the first time since the battle began. "Ambassador, you don't need to thank us. Just live your lives in peace. That's all the thanks we need." "But how can we repay this debt?" Kelvos asked. "By being the kind of people worth protecting," Kane replied. General Thrackmore watched this exchange with growing understanding. The humans weren't interested in conquest, tribute, or submission. They had fought this battle for one reason only, because innocent people had asked for help. "Admiral Kane," he said, "may I ask you something?" "Go ahead, General. Why did your species develop such advanced warfare capabilities?" Kane was quiet for a moment. "Because we had to fight each other to survive and grow. Because we learned that sometimes violence is the only way to protect what's precious. Because we discovered that the willingness to be a monster in defense of innocence is what separates protectors from predators." She paused, then continued. "General, your empire conquers peaceful worlds because it's easy. Humanity fights wars because it's necessary. That's the difference between us." Thrackmore nodded slowly. "What should I tell my superiors?" "Tell them the truth," Kane said. "Tell them that humanity is now part of the galactic community. Tell them that peaceful species have protectors. Tell them that any empire that makes war on innocents will have to face Earth's children. The fleet began forming up for departure. As they prepared to leave, General Thrackmore opened one final communication channel to Admiral Kane. Admiral, there are other peaceful species under threat from various empires across the galaxy. Will humanity help them too? Kane looked at him thoughtfully. General, that depends. Will those empires be smart enough to learn from your example? As the Vakari fleet departed the Zephyrian system, word began spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had revealed itself not as conquerors, but as the guardians of the innocent. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly learned that the galaxy had new protectors. On the research ship Aurora's Dream, Dr. Alina Martinez watched the human fleet organizing itself around the Zephyrian world. The ships moved with purpose, establishing patrol routes and communication networks. Jake, she said to Dr. Miller, I think we just witnessed something that will change everything. What do you mean? He asked. For the first time in galactic history, peaceful species don't have to face warlike empires alone. They have an ally that's better at war than anyone else. Below them, the Zephyrian world continued to spin peacefully, its cities still shining in the darkness. 8 billion lives continued, because 40 human ships had answered a call for help. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at reports from across the galaxy. Already, 3 other peaceful species had sent messages to Earth, asking for protection from various threats. Lieutenant Johnson, she said, send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell Admiral Morrison that we're going to need more ships. How many more, Admiral? Johnson asked. Kane smiled grimly. All of them. It seems the galaxy has been waiting a long time for someone willing to stand up to bullies. Humanity just volunteered for the job. In the depths of space, human ships patrolled the edges of the Zephyrian system. They moved silently, efficiently, like predators guarding their territory. The monsters of war had found their purpose, not conquest, but protection, and across the galaxy. Empires that had grown comfortable preying on the weak began to reconsider their strategies. Humanity was awake, and humanity was watching. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of the protectors had begun.